Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adanna Combie. It is now 7:32 a.m. So if you're getting to work for 8, you have some time this morning. But remember to drive safely on our nation's roads. Our key operative this morning is getting there safely and observing the traffic regulations. In fact, this brings me to our next conversation this morning. We're speaking with Sergeant Melinda Kirk of the TTPS Traffic Branch and Corporal Carva Vincent of the traffic branch as well. This morning we're talking about understanding traffic regulations. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning to the viewing public.
Right, and of course, as the topic suggests, understanding traffic regulations. And, we've seen where persons I have personally seen, so I can record what I see, persons not adhering to traffic regulations, possibly not understanding the traffic regulations or not having a knowledge of the traffic regulations. And so you see some sort of compromises there on the nation's roads. And it begs the question, because sometimes you're considering your safety. I always tell people who I know, drive for yourself and 2 persons in front and 2 persons behind, because you never know what the man in front of you is going to do, right? And so this morning we want to talk a little bit about traffic regulations. I want to start with traffic lights, the most obvious topic. I have had situations where I'm waiting in line, I am behind the light and the light is red. So I'm waiting my turn to go, which means the lights on the perpendicular side so one of the lights are green, right? When my light turns to green and I am ready to go, I am seeing cars still going across. And my light is already on green, which means their light has already turned to red. It went to orange and then to red, which gives them enough time to stop, slow down. And mine is on green, and still I see 2, sometimes even 3 cars still coming across. And so we have that challenge this morning to talk about and to encourage our viewers this morning about using and observing and respecting the traffic lights. I want us to have that conversation this morning.
May I? All right. Morning again. There seems to be a misconception in the understanding of the traffic lights. Yes, we know green means to go. Red means to stop. But the general public, most of them, have a conception that yellow means go through still. But the law states that a yellow light, a solid yellow light, means to get ready to stop. Because at any moment, that red light will come on. What people know, for personal individual drivers, upon seeing a yellow light, they speed up. They speed up. And by the time they speed up, the light changes to red, so they already break the traffic light. And when the officers who are there stops them and give them a ticket out, oh gosh, boss, give me a blind. But you could kill somebody. It's very, very dangerous. You could kill somebody, because the thing is this, I do it, I'm sure you do it also. The light turns to green. And you have to wait and watch to see if anybody coming through.
That's right.
Because if you wait, by the time you go through there, collision. Could be a fatal, could be a serious RTA, but an RTA or a road traffic accident is an accident.
And I want you to reiterate, because you said the yellow light is for you to start slowing down or prepare to
get
stop.
ready to stop.
Get ready to. That's what it means.
That's what it means.
And as you rightfully said, a lot of people think it means, let me see how fast I can get across before
Exactly.
the light turns red.
And to build that also, a flashing amber light means to proceed, but proceed cautiously. So even if you're going through, you have to slow down, watch, make sure it's clear, and then proceed. But that solid amber light means get ready to stop, because at any moment that red light is going to come on. And then you get caught in a predicament. If not a ticket, you might get yourself in an accident.
Yeah, and people take a lot of things for granted. They think to themselves, oh, I'm a good driver. Oh, my car working good. I could make it. And so we jeopardizing our safety and those who are around us by trying to escape. I'm trying to understand, what is the urgency to get through the light? When the light changes, how long does it take for you to change back for you to get access to go? What is the average time?
Average 10 seconds. There's a 10-second, 8 to 10 seconds grace period there.
No, like if your light is now on red and you have to wait another cycle for it to come around.
In some cases,
it's about 2 minutes, right?
2 to 3 minutes.
It
varies. It varies depending on where the lights are placed. It varies, but basically 2 to 3 minutes, and then it goes again.
And I'm trying to figure out, what is the hurry? What is the rush? I mean, listen, let me just talk on behalf of the TTPS for 10 seconds. Let us be cautious when using the traffic lights. There are persons who might not think, oh, I need to wait because my light is on green and so I have access to go. There are persons who would not be looking to see if you're zooming across. So please let us respect and adhere to. Now I know that there are cameras installed at most of our traffic on our traffic lights. Have they been helpful in terms of identifying drivers who break this law and who decide to themselves, well, I'm a good driver, my car good working, I could skate through there. Has it been able to assist us in identifying them? I know.
Yes, it has, because on a few occasions in the past, we would have caught drivers reaching the red stoplight, and we will call our operational command and ask for footage. So when the president, they plead not guilty in court, they could use that same footage as evidence in court. Say, but that is you going through red light there. Isn't that you? Isn't that your vehicle?
And what are the charges for breaking a light? 1, for breaking the red light, 1, and 2, for possibly causing any type of damage whatsoever.
Well, for the breach of the red traffic light, $1,000. And as usual, the 3 demerit points. In case of an RT, you still get charged for breach of the red stoplight, but you will also get charged, well, not charged, but at least you could sue the individual for damages done to your vehicle or even injury to a person. You can't sue them.
We just need to, we need to be safe. Every single morning I sit here, when I leave, I always say, ensure that you drive safely on our nation's roads. And this is what I am talking about. And so we want to ensure that we adhere to the regulations, right? When you get into an accident, if you get into an accident, a road traffic accident, let's say somebody breaks a light or somebody tries to overtake in an area where they're not supposed to overtake, and or you have a collision, what are your next steps? What are you supposed to do at that particular point in terms of reporting and, getting all your stuff sorted out?
Well, the first thing you're supposed to do, at least in some cases, people have their cell phone now, they take a picture of the scene, or some persons will mark the spots, at least, well, they can't mark the spot of the accident, but where vehicles ended up. Upon doing that now, you at least try your best to clear the roadway to allow other motorists to proceed where they're going, and then either you call the police station, or if your vehicle can still drive, come to the station and make a report as soon as practicable. Because gone are the days where they used to say, I'm gonna have 24 hours to make a report of an accident. But it has now been deemed that all RTAs are considered somewhat of a crime scene. So you have to report it as soon as practicable, in terms of as soon as possible. Because in some cases you may be injured and have to go to the hospital. That's not practicable. Some persons are gonna say, I'll get an accident now. See me, I can report it in the morning. But you can get charged for failing to report an accident as soon as practicable.
Oh.
Yes, you can.
That is some good knowledge. That's some good information coming there in terms of the person actually being, you are susceptible to a charge if you don't report it in the soonest possible time.
You have to give a reasonable excuse as to why you didn't report it as soon as possible. Have to give a reasonable excuse.
Right.
Officer, I wasn't feeling well. So I see me, I wasn't able to drive, so let me go home and rest. I'll come in the morning. That is a reasonable excuse. I have to go to the hospital. Reasonable excuse. You have to convey somebody to the hospital. Reasonable excuse. Absolutely. But it has to be reported as soon as practicable.
Now, I want to talk now about merging into traffic lanes on the highways and the byways. Now, I know that there was an issue at the Republic Bank at Orkinscure where there wasn't that where you couldn't merge into, you couldn't turn in there. You had to go around and come back. I know they've put demarcations on the ground, so you can now go there safely because there is an opportunity for you to go into the box, enter the box, and then turn right. The same situation exists now at FCB on Shervan Road. There isn't any opportunity for you to merge there to turn in there. So some people you will see, the law-abiding citizens, they would continue heading along west, go into Combie, turn around and head back out to make the turn into FCB. What is the correct thing to do where that is concerned? And is there any conversation in terms of putting any boxes in that area as well?
Well, I believe there are conversations ongoing, but the correct drive, which you stated before, is to go down. You could turn into Combie, and when it's safe to do so, you come back out and enter on the other side. But it is unlawful at this point in time to turn right into FCB. It is because if you watch the demarcations on the road, the markings on the road, solid line, which means you cannot cross it. You're not even supposed to overtake in that area. So it is against the law. It's even considered dangerous driving. But the correct thing at this point in time is to turn into Combie, or if you're not sure, go straight onto the traffic light, turn right into Shervan Road, turn around inside by the licensing or by the Shervan Plaza, come back out and go there. It's a longer drive, but unfortunately, until further notice, that is the correct drive.
Okay, I hope our drivers are listening this morning. Take note, take heed. And Sergeant Kirk, in terms of, as we talking now about merging, I want to talk about overtaking. Sometimes, and we will come back to talking about the speed limits because sometimes you could drive too fast and sometimes you could also drive too slow. So I want to talk about overtaking. When you want to overtake somebody on the main roads or wherever you are, what are the things that you have to look out for before you? And we learn this when we do our regulations, but sometimes you need to bring it back in the conversation so people are aware and that they adhere to what is what is required. So in terms of having to overtake somebody on the highway, what are the things you have to look out for before you take any action?
All right. Well, reference to when someone is overtaken, first thing you have to make sure it is safe for you to overtake, because we observe where there are drivers who are actually overtaken on the left-hand side, which is in what you call improper overtaking. So once it is safe for you to overtake, I will say you can overtake, but you also have to consider the lines that is on the roadway, because we have the solid lines and the broken lines, because wherever you see a solid line, that indicate it is not for you to overtake. You're only supposed to overtake in the areas where you see they are the broken lines.
And sometimes we have some, you rightfully said, there are some drivers who overtake on the shoulder, the left, which is really, really dangerous, as well as some persons who overtake a long line of traffic.
Yes.
And I've seen it so many times, and I'm wondering, where are these people going, and what is the haste about? And so, is there any regulation that governs how many vehicles you can overtake? As you said, you could only overtake on a broken line. Some people overtake on a solid line; they don't even look. I think we've come to a place now where we don't even pay attention to what is right in front of us. And is there anything that governs how many vehicles you can overtake at one particular time?
I will say yes, because according to our speed limit, on the highway, it's 80 kilometers. And if you're overtaking several vehicles, it clearly shows that you are over the speed limit, and that is classified as a dangerous driving. So right away, if you are overtaking at least 3 vehicles on the road, you will be automatically over 80 kilometers, and that is no longer improper overtaking, but dangerous driving.
Wow. So this has gone into a different category now, dangerous driving. And I want to talk about the speed limits, because you said I know that 80 kilometers is the speed limit for on the highways, but there are other limits as well for minor roads, and what is the minimum speed limit and stuff like that. I want to get into that part of the conversation as well.
Okay, so the speed limit for Tobago from the Shervin Road traffic light along the Claude Noel Highway until the Bacolet Junction, that speed limit is 80 kilometers per hour. Also from the Shervin Road traffic light along Buku Road until Grafton Road, that is still 80 kilometers. We also have from the Montgomery Junction until the Buku traffic light, that is still also 80 kilometers. But all others, especially from the Orskenscure roundabout along that Combie Road up to the Montgomery Junction, that is not 80 kilometers. That is 50 kilometers. Along the Windward Road, the Northside Road, along with the Plymouth Road onto Wilson Road, all those roads, and along the Milford Road, they are all 50 kilometers per hour.
Right. And what is considered driving too slow? Because sometimes you can be on the highway. I know it might be a tricky question, right? You might be on the highway and the speed limit is 80 kilometers, 50 kilometers for other areas. If somebody is driving at 30, is that considered driving too slow and possibly able to cause some sort of accident or collision?
If I may, yes, you could get charged for driving too slow, because it comes like if you're impeding traffic or keeping back traffic. If you have some emergency, like your vehicle, for some strange reason, has mechanical difficulties and it's going, you're proceeding, but proceeding slow, you can't go too fast. You'll pull slightly to the left and allow the traffic to flow. Those who want to flow will pass, as the case may be, once they're passing, but not above the speed limit. If it's a bit too slow, pull to the side. There's a shoulder in most areas. Pull to the left, proceed and go, because you have an emergency. That's what the shoulder is there for. But if you see you on the road and you're blocking traffic or obstructing the free flow of traffic, you can get charged for impeding that traffic.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Sergeant Melinda Daniel Kirk of the TTPS Traffic Branch and Corporal Carva Vincent, also of the TTPS Traffic Branch here in Tobago. We're having conversations about traffic regulations, what you should do, what you can do, and what you should not be doing. We have to go for a short break, but the conversation continues when we come back. And as we go for this break, of course, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. We'll be right back.
You're moving from place to place. Good morning.
Welcome back to the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. I am Adanna Combie, and we continue conversations this morning. We're speaking with Sergeant Melinda Daniel Kirk of the TTPS Traffic Branch and Corporal Carva Vincent, also of the TTPS Traffic Branch here in Tobago. And we're talking about, traffic regulations, using the highways, driving safely. And we ended the first half of our conversation by talking about pulling aside if you are driving, if there's something wrong with your vehicle and you have to drive a little bit slowly, especially on the highways, and not inconveniencing other drivers. And so you spoke about pulling to the shoulder and allowing the traffic flow to continue. What are some of the things you should do when you are getting ready to pull to the side, should something happen?
Well, your vehicle is supposed to be fitted with indicators. You could either indicate, or if the rain isn't falling, you're taking your glass and you'll use hand signals, which is part of the licensing regulation. And upon pulling to the left, or at least driving to the left, you'll put on your hazard light to indicate to other drivers that, yes, I have a difficulty, so I'm using the shoulder, or I have an emergency, so you're free to pass and go your merry old way. But you have to ensure and notify the public that, yes, that is why I'm on that side, or that's why I'm driving so slowly, so at least other motorists will know exactly what to do. Instead of being behind there, wasting time. In some cases where there isn't a shoulder, like some of the minor roads, you just pull slightly to the left with your hazard light on to indicate to them that, okay, you can pass.
Absolutely awesome. Sergeant, we're talking now about penalties. Right, we want to talk a little bit about the penalties for speeding and all the other, some of the other traffic offenses that people engage in on the nation's roads. And so, speeding, for instance, overtaking when they're not supposed to overtake. We want to know what are some of the penalties that come with these things, because I feel as if people take things for granted and they feel as if I could get away with something. Luckily, as you mentioned, we can get footage from our cameras that have been installed on our traffic lights. And so now we want them to know that we're going to catch you, and these are the charges that can, that can be incurred should you engage in this type of reckless driving.
So for someone caught exceeding the speed limit, the penalty varies according to how much you exceeded the speed limit by. For instance, if you were caught exceeding the speed limit between 1 kilometer to 9 kilometer, that is what we classify as a grace period, you'll be given a fine of just $1,000, but no demerit points. But if you exceeded from between 10 kilometers to 19 kilometers per hour, that's a fine of 1,500 with 2 demerit points. From 20 kilometers to 30 kilometers, that's $2,000 with a fine of 4 demerit points. And from 31 kilometers and over, that's a fine of $3,000 with 6 demerit points. And Pitya, you already obtain a ticket for exceeding over the limit of 31, where that is 6 demerit points. And then you later receive a ticket for this, a seatbelt, which is 4 demerit points. That is 10 demerit points. And you know that you already now reach in a category to be disqualified. Because once you attain between 10 to 13, you can be disqualified for 6 months. And we have a lot of drivers already attain that amount, and they already are disqualified from driving.
Wow. So I wanted to go through, as you mentioned, the disqualification in terms of the demerit points. I feel as if some people don't understand the accumulation of the points. Mm-hmm. So I really wanted to talk a little bit about that in terms of how many, you mentioned 10 to 13 qualifies you to be disqualified from driving for a period of 6 months. Tell me about the ranges from 10 to 13, maybe 13 to 15. What are the disqualifications? 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, eternity? How does it work?
Okay, so for a newly driver, meaning a driver who just attained his driver's permit for a period of 12 months, they are only able to attain a demerit points of 7. And with that 7 points, they can be disqualified for 1 year. For an experienced driver, meaning a driver who is the holder of a driver's permit for more than 1 year, they are allowed between 10 to 13 demerit points. They will be disqualified for 6 months. From between 14 to 19 demerit points, you can be disqualified for 1 year. From over 20 demerit points, you can be disqualified for 2 years. We had a case just on Tuesday where a person, he was disqualified from the court and he was found driving, and the magistrate, he was sentenced to a short term of imprisonment. So you can also be sent to jail for such.
So after you get disqualified, is your permit taken away from you, or do you still have possession of it? How? Because you're saying that somebody was disqualified, but they were still found driving. So are they still in possession of their physical driver's permit, or do they have some sort of? How do you identify somebody in this case who is already disqualified?
Well, first thing, their driver's permit, it will be detained by the licensing department. So they will not be the holder at that point in time of a driver's permit.
And so driving without a driver's permit, of course,
Yes.
is breaking the law.
It is.
It's an offense.
It is an offense. And what are the penalties for that?
The reference to driving without a driver's permit, because we have a lot of cases of like that recently, where a person, they will never issue with a driver's permit and they always have an excuse of why they're supposed to be on the road. So it all depends on the discretion of the magistrate. You can be fined or you can be disqualified from driving. Because what we need for persons to understand, once you have the keys in your possession, you are found behind the steering wheel. Even if the vehicle is in park, you are considered a driver, and if you do not have a driver's permit, that's an offense.
Wow. I hope you are listening closely this morning to this conversation and, of course, taking heed. You know, one of our viewers on our online platform is talking about driving too closely, and that is a concern I have as well. When a driver is right up on your rear, you know, and I know when I did my regulations, you had to be a certain distance. You had to give that person distance in case they have to come to a sudden stop, in case something happens in front there. And that is why I mentioned earlier, sometimes I drive for myself and 2 persons in front and 2 persons behind, because you never can tell. How do we address this situation in terms of driving too close to a driver?
Well, how should I put this? It's all left to the discretion of the driver, because we have seen an increase in vehicular traffic on a daily basis. You as a driver had to take into consideration that in case of an emergency, someone has to stop, that you will have enough distance to stop. And we have found now that when the rain starts falling and the roadway now is wet, it's oil coming from the pitch and water. So you have to have a proper distance away from that vehicle in front of you. So if you stop on your saddle skid or hydroplane because of the water, that you can have a little distance to maneuver away from that vehicle or stop in time. But as you rightly said earlier on, everyone seems to be in a hurry, so they have to be right up behind somebody. And in some cases, I think they call that tailgating also, you know, and you could get charged for that also. Because driving dangerously, what if I stop? You don't know what could happen.
That's right.
So it's all on the discretion of the driver, all of the discretion of the driver.
You know, I wish we had more time this morning to talk a little bit more about this, because it's very important for all of us to understand how we use our nation's roads safely to ensure that we get to where we're going to with as little disruption as possible, if any at all. But we have, of course, to wrap things up this morning. But before we go, what is that one thing you want to ensure our viewers and listeners take away from this conversation this morning?
At the end of the day, drivers have to take one thing into consideration. It's not that you were given a vehicle for free. It's not that it's you alone on the road. You bounce it, you have to fix it. You're not on somebody, you have to take care of them. And the money coming up from your pocket. You have to be careful on the nation's roads. And it's a twofold incident, because you bounce somebody on the road, you gotta fix them, and you still gonna get charged. So that money coming from your pocket, and you're complaining that, oh gosh, I have no money, I have no this, I have no that. Is you wanted, you buy a vehicle to bounce it? You buy a vehicle to drive for your convenience. Be safe on the nation's roads. Safety for you on the road, safety for others, and safety for the money in your pocket.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for staying with us up until this point. We've been speaking with Sergeant Melinda Daniel Kirk and Corporal Carva Vincent of the TTPS traffic branch here in Tobago, speaking about understanding the traffic regulations. And of course, we're going to have this conversation again sometime later on in our studio. But this is where we end the morning show on Tobago Updates Television. But we don't end our programming here. We head on over to Tobago Notes and then to GMT. So stay with us. And as you stay with us, of course, we invite you to help us share the live, share the live, share the live.